you can hear, I have nice exhaust leak. Also, you can hear the rockers a little bit. This thing has a ton of miles. This is how I'm going to check it out. No trouble. Leak after leak after leak. Look how bad it's leaking. All of them. And they're tight. Now I gotta pull the damn manifold and the exhaust. Place the gasket. So I have the new gasket already, but we heated the engine up, and I'm gonna hit these bolts, even though they look great, with some PB Blaster. It'll give me, hopefully, less headaches when it comes to taking these off. And then we'll have to go under the underside and do the same thing as well, unfortunately. We're gonna let this sit overnight, and then we'll get to pulling some stuff out of the way. Hopefully we don't have to take too much off. So we're gonna do this the easiest way possible. We're gonna literally leave everything hooked up, and we're gonna start taking these bolts out, and I'm gonna leave one of the middle upper ones in place and pull all the rest, and then when we get close and ready, get the other gasket ready, we'll undo this bolt, and if we have to wedge something in there to hold some space, we will do that. We'll get this gasket out, put the new one in, and reverse. Some of these can be a pain to get to. You definitely want a ratcheting one, or you're going to be here forever trying to get to these. You can use a socket and wrench, but this is what I'm using. Was pretty straightforward. It's just these under bolts and getting to them. On the back one, I had a socket stuck to the bolt back here. No big deal, just put a wrench on it, took it off. So I've got my last one here, and I'm gonna go ahead and take her off. So you can loosen this bolt right here in the tensioner, and then adjust this one out, back it off, and it'll give you slack. You can take the belt off, and then you can pull these bolts. And that way you can just kind of pull this out of the way instead of having to take this whole bracket off here. Just gonna loosen that up a little more. Give us enough slack so we can just walk this off real easy. Alright, just like that, it's out of the way. Then we're gonna go get our wrench and take these three loose. It's boop boop. And one down there, and I just ripped my other glove again. Sweet. Now when you get down here, a quarter with a long 13 or a 1/2 inch socket is gonna help tremendously. Can be done with a box end, but quite difficult, and you're not gonna get a lot of turn in there. So yeah, we're just gonna use this until we can't, and then if I have to put the short on there and then take it off, because you can run out of room here, you don't want to get stuck. So we'll get as far away as we can. Let's see, we're almost off on these, so we're getting really close. You just get these far enough as you need to, and then you should be able to finger twist them with the weight picked up off of it. You should be able to twist these out with your hands and just pop this off just to get it out of your way, and the intake will slide back. You can either decide to pull these all the way out and get them out of your way. Sometimes it's easier, and then you gotta fight them out of the fan. Come on. Kind of a pain. Stick them into the fan and then out and up. I'm gonna leave this one here because it's just out of the way, and this will be the first one I put back in. Just broke loose. Now your intake is loose. Take this guy loose and pull. It's got a nice little retractable piece, so I can pull it in. Oh, it's not even tight. Look at that. I already took it off. Intake's gonna be out of the way. And then I'm probably gonna have to take the other side of the intake, or the exhaust manifold loose, so I can pull it back far enough. But it might come off. I might be able to stick a small wedge or a screwdriver on the other side and just wiggle it off. And then we will have this super ugly gasket out of my way. So yeah, this isn't a super healthy looking gasket here. I did wrinkle it trying to take it out. Yeah, it's not, I can see what was leaking. Good thing we got a new one, huh? Alright, here's a new one. It's a nice, good shape. It's got the metal rings for the exhaust flanges, which is cool. I don't think this one really matters which side it goes, but I always prefer to put numbers out. So we're gonna set this against the block that way. You know, each side is mirrored perfectly, so it should be able to go either way. But I always like to go numbers out, so that's what we're gonna do. All right, so as you can see, there's some gaskets still stuck on there in places. It's also a little oily in the intake valley. So I'm gonna brake clean this dry, and then we're gonna get rid of like the gasket that's on there. We're gonna probably use a flat scraper and then a wire brush. We'll get those all good and clean. And then it's probably gonna be the easiest to, honestly, I think we're gonna pull this up and then slide the gasket in here. We'll just slide it in, drop it down, get it all lined up on the pins without hurting anything. Slide it in nice, and then we'll get the exhaust manifold put back on the studs. So now we're gonna brake clean. I'll hit it with a wire brush. We're just gonna do small little sections at a time. Ew. Almost lost my brush there. And we'll do that over the whole thing. Get it nice and clean, as clean as possible without taking anything off the surface. And then we'll put the gasket back on. Okay, so we've got this all clean. We popped this up and it's gonna be mostly out of our way. And we will start feeding this in. Be pretty delicate with this thing. It's kind of flimsy, which is a pain, but it is what it is. Alright, you don't want to tear it. Just gotta be patient. Okay. Alright, that one's in. Let me show you. Get that one set in, which is super duper easy, and then we'll just start setting these in. Might take a little finessing. We'll have to pull this back over here and get enough room to get this guy to drop down first. Okay, so you'll have to pull this back to get this gasket onto that stud, and I can't show you while I do this, so I'm gonna have to skip that part. Sorry. So that only took a few seconds. I just reached under, grabbed the manifold, pulled it back, and then got this fed on to the studs, and we'll make sure all these other guide pins here are going in the gasket how they should be. Everything looks pretty good. We're on a stud there. We're on this guide pin. We're on that guide pin. We're on that stud. So then we'll get the let's get the exhaust manifold set back on there. Which is kind of hard. It's very heavy from up here. All right, looks like we're caught here in the header itself. See if we can pull it up enough to get it set on a stud. I'm gonna have to go below and push it up. Okay, I got it on there. I ain't gonna lie, that was pretty tough. I had to go underneath and take a big pry bar and pry against the transmission and push this thing forward because I didn't want to unhook the manifold. And then I'll just have to pull this up, which that should, I don't want to be pinching that wire. Just be able to pop that up. I might have to pull forward too. All right, I'm gonna have to pry this side out to get that one lined up enough to get it to go in. This is the hardships you have to deal with when you take a shortcut. So just took a pry bar, pried against the back of my manifold, and pried it that way, which it wasn't very much. It was just enough to get that in there. Then before you smash this on, obviously you want to make sure your guide pins are in. All right, those are in. And then we'll get this intake close, and we'll bolt these, the power steering back into it. That way everything's where it should be. And then we'll run those bolts up. Here's the fun part. We got to get these shims lined up, which it's not too bad. It's a little finagling, but you need to get that shim lined up for the intake and this shim lined up for the intake. And you can loosely put a bolt in to hold it once you get it to where you want it. Once you get it to where you want it, you need to get most of the bolts started, at least on each side. One on the intake, one on the exhaust, one on the intake, one on the exhaust, and get it pretty close to where it needs to be. Okay, so it's much later. And so we got all these bolts in here very loosely on the top, that way it'll hang. And okay, so you're gonna have to line that up if we can find it here. Sorry, it's quite difficult. Alright, that guide pin right there has to go in and it'll sit flush. Same on the other side over there, which you can't see from here because it's in the way. Make sure those two guide pins are in there, and you can get the bolt right center of the screen. It's hard to see it, where the hole is. It goes in between those two pieces. That'll let you get the bolt in there with the washer and get it started. Then you can get all these started in here, and you'll be good to go. But you make sure those guide pins go in first before you try tightening anything up, and you will save a lot of headache. Okay, so it's next day. It got dark last night and I didn't finish, so we're gonna finish this up now. We still got molds to do here, and we gotta torque these. I'm gonna put the sequence on the screen so you can see what we gotta do here. I believe we gotta come around here and go to the bottom. And there's 2, 1 and then 2, then this will be 3, and so on and so forth. And we'll get them all torqued up. It's like 24 pounds, I believe, and then on the ends here, these are 23 pounds. I don't know why it's any different. We're gonna get those all tweaked up. And then this has enough play, and this is almost there, so we should be able to get that in after it's torqued. That way nothing's putting it in a bind and affecting the torque. So we're gonna get that done real quick. All right, we got these 3 back in, fit it all nicely and loose. That way we can get them all in and still give this a wiggle and get all of them started. I'm gonna run them down, tighten them up. Shouldn't have had to loosen these bolts, but if you did, make sure you get these tightened back. Just don't really move the tension or anything. Sorry, made it focus out. But I had an issue and I just needed a little extra wiggle, so I took those 2 loose. Make sure you tighten them back up. Okay, we got the belt back on how it needs to go. You need to check a diagram if you took it all the way off. You should probably do that, but yeah, that's how it looks. All I did was take it off this pulley and the tensioner, and then we're gonna tighten the tensioner bolt up, and it will pull that pulley up and start to snug the belt. Okay, so when you're twisting this bolt up, you'll notice this pulley's coming up and this belt starts to tighten, and you just want to make sure you got about, quarter of a twist of deflection in the belt here. Just a little bit of play, not too much. But yeah, you don't want to be able to turn it too much past there, because when tension and torque starts to get put on this belt, it can get thrown or walk off, especially slip on the water pump or something. So yeah, you just want it to look about that when you twist it. Okay, so this almost wraps it up, but we got a couple little odds and ends. I'm gonna put this back where it needs to go, which isn't too far away. Let's see what we're stuck on here. We go up and over, and then it just slides back down onto those studs. And that one is broken, but this one's good. Wiggle that one down. Wiggle that one down. And I'm gonna put this back on, and you probably want to check all your vacuum hoses because I knocked a few off last night. Oh, it looks like my buddy stuck that one back on. I knocked off. Obviously my TPS is missing. I took that off for a different purpose that had nothing to do with this job. You just want to kind of double check everything, make sure you don't have any broken wires, your injector clips didn't come undone. Let's see, like this came off. Push that back on. Check all your vacuum lines, PCV valve lines or seals. If you took them off, which I took them off, and then I had to put that back on. Those can be a pain, so you want to make sure you separate the gasket from the PCV valve, put the gasket in, and then put the valve back in separately. It'll be much easier. It looks about like everything. This is nothing to be concerned with. It's just the breather for the front diff case area. Oh. It'll be good to seat this gasket, so it's a good idea to let it idle up to operating temperature. Probably let it run for, 15-20 minutes. That way this gasket gets run up to operating temperature, and then let it do a cool down cycle, so a heat and then a cool, and then to let this manifolds and stuff seep to the gasket as well, instead of just starting it